If you've ever opened a new tab and just kind of sat there, not sure what you're supposed to be working on and not sure if the thing you're about to do is even the right thing, I want to talk to you today because I spent a really long time thinking that was a discipline problem. Like if I could just sit down and focus, everything would sort itself out. And what I've come to realize, and I think this is a thing that actually changed how I work, is that it's not a discipline problem. It's a clarity problem. And clarity, it turns out, is a structure problem. So today I want to show you the exact system I use to organize my entire life, multiple businesses in Notion, and more specifically, I want to walk you through the framework that makes it actually work. Because there's a hierarchy to how I think about everything. And once you understand it, the way you approach your days and your weeks and your projects, they just start to feel different. So we're going to cover four levels here: areas, sub areas, projects, and actions. And I'll show you exactly how that plays out in my actual Notion setup. So here's what I've noticed happens for most people, right? And honestly, this was me for a really long time. You build a productivity system and it works for like 2 weeks, and then it just kind of quietly dies. You stop updating it. You start keeping mental tabs on things instead of putting them somewhere, or your list gets too long and too overwhelming. And then eventually you're back to a collection of notes, apps, and sticky notes and calendar reminders that don't connect. And it's all overwhelming. And I think the reason that happens is that most systems are built around tasks, they're just built around doing all the time. And the problem with that is tasks without context feel arbitrary. You're just checking boxes and you never really know if you're checking the right ones. You never know if you're actually getting anywhere. You can be incredibly busy and still feel like you're not moving anything forward. What I needed wasn't a better place to put tasks, right? I needed a way to understand what my tasks were actually in service of, like why I was doing them. And that's what the four level framework gave me. So let me walk you through this from the top down. The first level is areas, right? And an area is a domain of your life or work that you're responsible for on an ongoing basis. It doesn't have an end date, it's not something you finish, it's something you maintain. So for me, areas include things like health, home, creative cabana, anything that is a business or a unit all on its own for my life. These are the broad buckets that basically contain my whole life. And here's why this matters. When you know your areas, you can look at your week and ask, am I actually spending time in the places that matter most? Because without the top level view, it's really easy to just live in whatever's loudest. Like that's the area you end up spending all your time in. And honestly, the loudest thing is rarely the most important thing, although it always feels that way. The second level, though, is sub areas. A sub area is a more specific domain within one of your areas, right? So inside of Creative Cabana, I've got sales and marketing. I have project management. I have Villa West, our template shop. I have client work and delivery. These are all just a better breakdown of the area because everything you can break down into smaller things, right? That's where we're getting at here. So, sub areas can help you get more granular about where your attention is going without losing the big picture. And this is where a lot of systems stop. They have categories and then tasks inside those categories, but there's such an important level between the category and the task, and that's what level three is for. And level three is projects. A project is anything with a defined outcome and an endpoint. It's distinct from an area because it's something you actually finish. And rebuilding a website, it's a project. Launching a new offer is a project. It's something that has multiple tasks and multiple steps to it. It's not just a one and done quick thing. And the key thing about a project is that it has a clear definition of done. You know when this is complete. And what I found is that a lot of stress comes from treating ongoing responsibilities if they were projects, or treating projects as if they were just some vague thing on the list without an endpoint. And getting those two categories completely separate and understanding them is huge. And then the fourth level is going to be your actions, or what most people would just call tasks, right? These are the individual things you actually do. They typically live within a project, but they can also live on their own. The difference is that in this system, every action is attached to something, though, whether it's a sub area or an area or a project. And ideally, they all live within a project. But I know how business ownership goes, right? There's a lot of one off tasks, so they don't all fit within a project. But an action or a task, it shouldn't just float, it shouldn't have no connection to the greater picture. So, again, it should belong to at least a sub area or an area at the minimum. That way, when you're working on your to dos, you always have context of the bigger picture. You know why this thing matters and what it's moving forward. So, now let me actually show you how I built this out, because seeing the concept is one thing, but I think seeing it in a real working setup makes it a lot more tangible. So this is my operations page. You're gonna see on the left here, I've got the main operations button, so I can go back to this page at any point. I've got an easy way to create tasks or projects or meeting notes or an idea I might have. I need those to be very easy to access, right? You're gonna see I've got different hubs, and I'm not going deep into all of this stuff in this video, but I've got systems in place. I've got different brains. I've got my overall brain that stores everything. I've got the business side of my brain, because it feels like I've got two sides of the brain that all mesh together, right? I've got business brain, personal brain, and a directory for everything. And then I've got my creative cabana stuff, because that is what I'm working on most of the time. That connects back to my team and everything there. But this is what it looks like. You're going to see the breakdown. I've got sub areas, reminders, projects, communications, and actions. I also have any notes from this week, anything that I've captured this week, as well as any meetings I've had this week. And you can even see tasks that I've added today. So, what this does is it allows me to show up and be present and see, first of all, what sub areas am I working on today? Because I have so many things going on at any given time. I can't focus on them all every single day. So I have to break it down. And for this one, I have three sub areas. I have a client that I work on Tuesdays. I also have client work and delivery that I do, as well as project management. Those are under Creative Cabana, whereas this is under my consulting, right? And so I don't show the area because it's too broad, but I need to make sure everything is connecting back to that. Now I have reminders. Anything that would be a reminder is going to show up here. We're just going to do test reminder so you can see how it shows up, and it shows up today. That's great. So you can see how it shows up here. Once that's done, I click it as complete. Easy peasy. Now, any projects that I've got ongoing or that I need to be working on today are going to show up here, right where this says, as well as communications. It's going to show up just like reminder. This is emails that I need to respond to or team messages. If I can't respond to them right away and I just don't want them taking up brain space, I need a spot to dump it and come back to it later, right? So you're going to notice I'm at the end of my workday. So all of this is pretty clean and there's not a lot going on. But here is where I spend most of my time through my day, because all my actions should be connecting back to a project or a sub area for the day. And I've got it set up so it automatically makes sure it's connecting, and I'm only seeing actions and tasks that make sense for today. You can see I'm supposed to record this video, and I'm supposed to create a document for my team. And so you can see, depending on how I check these boxes, it changes the priority level on these. And so there's technically 4 different categories here, but they're not all showing up at the moment. You're going to see they're all under due now. I don't know if I can actually get them. Oh, you can see priority low. It changes. So if I have enough tasks, it's going to show everything in 4 categories right here, but it's going to align them from priority 1 to priority 4. So this is really how I manage running so many businesses and how I keep my head on straight. This is built to automatically capture all of this and to keep everything in a flow so that it makes sense. It's all connected. I can go to any sub area or area at any given time and find all the information that I need. Now remember, the system is only as good as the attention you're going to give it, right? So if you're sitting here thinking, "Okay, I want to build something like this. Where do I start?" And I gave you such a brief overview. Here's what I'd actually tell you. Don't start with notions unless you want a template, and we'll get to that later, but start on a piece of paper. Write down your areas, just the big domains of your life. You're probably going to get between 4 to 8. And don't overthink this. This is supposed to be those broad areas that kind of capture everything, and this is fluid. You can continue to build it as you go. And then as you're thinking about your areas, think about what lives under those. And that's your sub areas, right? Those are a way of breaking down that area into a little bit more bite-sized chunks so that it makes sense, so that each day can kind of have a theme of what you're working on. And this is not projects. This is something ongoing. So then you need to ask yourself, what are the projects? What are things that have defined outcomes and end dates or true goals in mind? And what is it that I'm working towards? Not tasks here. You want outcomes, things that have a longer period of time to work on, but they have an end point. And then, and only then, look at your task list and sort each task into one of those projects or one of those sub areas. Make sure you attach everything to something. When you've done that, when you've got everything in a home and nothing's floating around really anymore, you're going to feel so much more at peace. And just know that the tool is not as important as the framework. So this framework can work again on a piece of paper, but I would love to know if you're interested in a template. I have been working on this for many, many years, and I have bought many templates over the years, but I have built something truly custom to business owners that have a lot on their plate, and that is probably you. It's a great way to clear up your mind and really get yourself to enjoy this journey, because I always say it at the end of every video, but make sure that you enjoy the journey. And it's really hard to do that when everything is living in your head and you're constantly stressed. So my hope for you is that this allows you to have some relief and to not stress so much. And I'll see you in the next one.